Greg Ehrenberg here with Adam Scherer. It's another edition of the NBA injury report and the smaller slate. Not that much injury news compared to some recent slates. I think the entire league has already had COVID at this point, so that's becoming less of an issue. That's all well and good. Still some guys to talk about. As usual, do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be answering those later on in the day. Starting with the Toronto Raptors here, Adam, we've got Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent Jr., both questionable to play. Fred VanVleet has been playing out of his mind as of late. Is this something that could continue if these guys are out for the Raptors?
Yeah, but I'm not even really sure how much they affect VanVleet. I think VanVleet's kind of just his own thing where when he's shooting well, he just shoots a lot. I mean, that was the case even going back to when Kyle Lowry was on this team. As someone that rostered Lowry a decent amount, you would get those games where you're watching and it's just like, oh, this is a Fred VanVleet game where he can't miss. He knows he can't miss, and he is just essentially playing 1-on-5 and winning. So like that, I think is the case whether guys are in or out. You know, obviously if you take out Barnes and Trent, there is a little bit more production to go around, but I think he's kind of his own thing anyway. Where I think it does matter though, is we've seen Toronto really like these just like 6'8" across the board lineups where they're not big, but they're bigger than normal. You know, at the guard spots, they're smaller than normal in the front court. And last game with Trent out, we saw Khem Birch get the start as opposed to say Steve Mikhailuk. And you got 28 minutes from Boucher. You got a 48-minute split from Birch and Achua, where Achua was on the winning end there because Birch dealt with some foul trouble. But I think if you get one of these guys out, it's likely that they just go right back to Khem Birch starting and more minutes for Birch, Achua, and Boucher.
Yeah, the other crazy thing that's been crazy about Fred VanVleet's recent run is it's like you turn away for 5 minutes to go to the bathroom. It's like, oh my God, he scored 20 minutes in the 3 minutes I was away from my TV.
I think he legitimately had 30 fantasy points in a 4-minute stretch the other day. Like it was just, I know he went on a 15-0 personal run, and I think it was over the span of like 2 minutes.
Yeah, he's been on some kind of heater as of late. Something else that's been pretty big news as of late, the Draymond Green situation with everything going on with sportsbooks, trying to figure out whether to pay out props from last game. So Draymond Green is officially out today. What happened in the Warriors game on Sunday was he was starting, but it said he was not actually going to play. He was not healthy enough to play, but he wanted to be on the court because it was Klay Thompson's first game back. So they tip off. Draymond Green immediately intentionally fouls somebody, gets taken out of the game, doesn't return. He only played 7 seconds. He is not going to play today officially. They've got Gary Payton questionable, Otto Porter questionable. Who are the cheap guys that you expect to pick up extra run for the Warriors?
It's always tough with Golden State because Kerr typically doesn't give a ton of extra run to one in particular person. But what I do think we can expect is Kevon Looney to play a bit more than usual. He played 29.5 minutes last game. I think it's likely you get around 28 or so here. He also, produces at a little bit higher rate without Draymond out there. You should get more minutes for Juan Toscano-Anderson, but even so, he still only played 19 minutes last game. He's center only on DraftKings for some reason, but he is 3K flat, so that's reasonable. And then Andre Iguodala played about 25 minutes last game. Porter played 20 minutes. Either one of those guys looks like a reasonable value, but they're different than other teams in that it's unlikely that one player just steps in and plays, 35 minutes or something.
And then one quick follow-up question. We saw an insane usage rate from Klay Thompson last game. I think a lot of that was narrative-based. Like, hey, it's Klay's first game in 2.5 years. We want to get him touches, but he finished with a usage rate over 40%. Now that he's back, and he's still going to be playing limited minutes for a little bit, but how does he impact some of the guys like Wiggins and Curry?
Yeah, it's really tough. It kind of reminds me of when Zion first came into the league and he was playing those like 20 minutes, because it's like when guys are only out there for 20 minutes, they know they're only going to be out there for 20 minutes, they just chuck, and like it's not like you blame Klay for it, but it becomes difficult to like quantify the effects on guys like Curry and Wiggins because it's a negative. I mean, obviously for whatever time they're on the floor, Thompson's going to be a higher usage guy than Gary Payton, but it's still not likely he plays the entire game. So I think that guys like Curry and Wiggins still look pretty good. They still certainly have high ceilings, but Klay coming back is, I think, it does cut into their usage at least a little bit.
The NBA Injury Report is sponsored by Yahoo. If you guys are new to Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, click on the link using the description box below. You head on over to Yahoo, make a deposit, enter a contest, get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You find all the tools that you need to make money on every single DFS platform out there for basically every single DFS sport. We've got everything covered from esports and then, of course, football, basketball, all of the main sports as well. So check that out. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. A couple more injury news to hit on, and not major names, but certainly things that could create some value for the Memphis Grizzlies. a team that's had a bunch of players in and out of the lineup all season. They've got Steven Adams currently listed as questionable. How do you think they fill the front court minutes if he's unable to play?
So last game we saw Jaren Jackson Jr. get the start at the 5, which is very good news for him from a fantasy standpoint. He produces much better when he's out there without Adams. Xavier Tillman played about 18 minutes. Brandon Clark played like 16 minutes. So I think that they would probably go back to that same lineup where you're getting 30 minutes or so from Jaren Jackson Jr. He started at the 5. He did play some alongside Brandon Clark as well, but I think you'd go there. And then they had Zaire Williams in the starting lineup as well. If Adams is in, I don't know which one of Williams or Anderson goes back to the bench, but we did get 27 minutes from Zaire Williams last game. I would assume that if Adams is out, both Williams and Anderson are starting again.
Yeah, I think that is a fair way to look at it. We do have a recent sample size on it. I wouldn't expect them to do too much different, even in a different matchup. Now, the final piece of injury news to hit on, Will Barton. He is in the health and safety protocols, and we've seen just a totally decimated Denver Nuggets team. It's Jokic versus the world every time Denver plays. The team is now missing Michael Porter Jr., Vlatko Kankar, Will Barton, PJ Dozier, Jamal Murray, and Marcus Howard. So with all these guys out and basically all of the key players on the team other than Nikola Jokic, is it just going to be the Jokic show again?
I think so. I mean, it kind of has to be. We do have a few games this year, I think, where Barton and Porter were both out. I don't have it in front of me, but I know that Jokic's rates should go up at least a little bit. But then I think it also does open the door for not necessarily one player to be a lot better, but it creates a path for guys like Monte Morris, Aaron Gordon, Bones Highland potentially, Campazzo. Like I think to some extent it's going to be a hot hand situation. You could possibly have Rodney Magruder here as well, but we know Monte Morris can play a bigger role. And the ball should be in his hands a little bit more without Barton. Same for Aaron Gordon. I mean, this is someone that hasn't been a very good fantasy producer in Denver because he doesn't need to be. But we know going back to his time in Orlando, he's perfectly capable of facilitating and making some plays. So without somebody like Barton, maybe you see Gordon step up as the second guy behind Jokic. Highland at 3,300 played about 9 minutes last game, but could certainly step into more playing time with Barton out here. And he's actually a good per minute guy, which is why he's interesting in fantasy. So I think that outside of Jokic just being even better, it's kind of murky like who's going to step up, but there is still plenty of opportunity available for guys like Morris, Gordon, potentially Highland or Campazzo.
Yeah, be on the lookout for any starting lineup news for the Denver Nuggets. Easiest way to do that, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Later on the day, we have the deeper dive. Live before lock, we'll be up to date on anything that happens in terms of any players that are ruled in, ruled out, or any kind of starting lineup changes. Good luck today, guys. Any questions, leave a comment below.